Welcome to Lower the Bar with John and Joe. Remember to breathe. This is your Power Hour.
It was so beautiful.
Too beautiful to stay in the office.
Yes. So we are here doing our podcast. So how was your week, Joe?
My week was very busy between buying and staining furniture, planting seeds, just rearranging, trying to get the house back together because we had our back porch behind us. We had the oak floor refinished. So the fireplace is going back. We're just a busy week. We're almost done.
Nice.
I ordered a case of wine today, so I know I'm almost done.
Okay.
How about your week?
My week was good. My week was great. Clients, very busy the week after getting back from California and getting caught up, and that was good. I had a very interesting dream last night that I want to share with our listeners. For those of you who don't know, when I was young, was abused, habitually abused for many years. And it took me a long time to get over my abuser and everything that I went to. And oddly enough, I don't know if I shared this in the last podcast, but he's been dead for 30 years, almost. And I ran into his doppelganger on the street.
How'd that trigger you?
It didn't.
Good.
Which was really, I don't want to say unusual, but it made me feel really good after the experience. At first, I had a lump in my throat, and I was like, oh my gosh. Because if he weren't dead, I would have gone up to him. Like it was, everything was exactly this person. So,
wow.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't happen often, but this was no accident. And then...
It's the universe testing you to see if you've done the work, which you know, I know you have.
Yes. But what was really interesting about that experience was I saw him again, walking back, and he was coming back on the street the same direction. So it was almost like the universe going, we're just seeing.
We're checking.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really interesting. So that happened a couple of weeks ago. Right after I got back, and getting back to this dream I had last night, I was in an elevator. I can't remember the dream, all of it, but I remember the ending. So I'm getting out of this elevator, and it felt more like a hotel. Like when it opened up, I don't remember what it was. I can't identify, but when it opened up, it felt and looked more like a hotel than an apartment. And when I get out of the elevator, literally right in front along the back wall that you're facing when the elevator door opens up is him, lying on the ground. But what was really interesting was he almost looked like a mummy. He was emaciated, completely thin, and this was a very large man, full beard. And it was him, but this frail, delicate, just like human being. And I knew it was him. And my first instinct was to help him.
How compassionate.
Well, I wasn't thinking about that
No,
while I was dreaming.
But that's even better because that was your natural instinct.
It was at that moment, even though I knew who it was, because something was telling me he was in cardiac arrest. When the elevator door opened up, his breathing was belabored. He looked like he was dying. So I just ran out and started doing, chest compressions on him.
Did you start breathing?
I woke up.
Okay.
I didn't do CPR. I mean, I did, but I wasn't like...
Yeah.
I didn't I didn't go close to his face, but I started doing that, and then I woke up, and the most incredible feeling came over me. And I really just felt like I had moved through it. And this was really like the final confirmation, like the universe saying, this no longer impacts you. The vibration of that energy and all the trauma, the shame, the guilt, and all the anger, the rage was no longer there. and I just had compassion. And I woke up and I thought I would cry, but I just kind of jumped around. I was just so elated.
You were joyful.
I went downstairs, made myself a chai tea latte, and sat on my front porch and just was like, wow, this is amazing. And I was so happy and so just, I can't tell you the way I felt. And I feel compelled to share it with you guys because for anyone that has been through horrific trauma in your life, there is a silver lining.
That's what I do all the time, with my hypnosis clients, is move through the trauma and change your perspective, change the way you respond to the trigger.
Yes.
And it changes everything.
Yes.
And it does, that you can, it sometimes takes practice, that each time you're triggered, because you will continue to be triggered under certain circumstances, the response is less and less until it just doesn't even come into your mind anymore.
Yeah, I was very proud and felt so good about it that I could move through that. So again, to our audience, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are experiences that we have in our life that, whether we want to admit it or not, are intentional. Because everything that happens to us is intentional. So when we look through that lens and we can take responsibility, it kind of shifts everything. So just to let people know that you can suffer incredibly and be able to move through it. You just have to be willing to do the work. And that's really all it is. You have to be willing to do the work. But if you do the work, you'll move through it.
And if you want to work with John and I as a team, just call us, reach out, send an email. We're happy to do that. We do that quite often, that we work with people individually and together.
Yes.
So it works very well. So today, what's our topic for today?
Well,
We're really responding to all the emails that we got about our discussion on auras.
let's tell our listeners, we do a class once a month. Joe and I teach a class to a bunch of people who are interested in elevating their consciousness, understanding who they are. And last class, we discussed auras. And when the class was letting out, everyone was like, can we do another one on this? Everyone was so into it because there's so much really ground to cover in that area.
That's why our last podcast was on
Yes.
auras.
So we figured we'd do another one today. So
Yeah. We had so many emails, so many questions. So what we've done is, I want to share with you The Powers of Auras by Susan Shumsky. This is the book that we've used. We've used other ones too, but this is the best book, I think, of the ones that I've read. And so we've taken questions both from our clients and from this book. And we thought it would be fun just to go over them and see what you feel about it. The first one is, what does aura mean? Do you have any idea what aura means? Is it a sphere of energy, a bubble of protection? Well, the word aura derives from the ancient Greek word for breath or breeze. So it really comes from the word breeze. It's an aura. You know how they say there's an aura about you? They don't always mean a color. They just mean it's just something.
the feeling they
It
get.
sweeps over you. Yeah. So that's very interesting. You want to pick one of the questions and, well, those are the answers, but
You can, Joe. Go ahead.
okay. What is the human energy field? You know what the human energy field is? A higher plane of existence? Your higher consciousness? How about subtle bodies? Or where to get drinks to get a buzz on? No, I don't think so. The human energy field consists of subtle bodies that permeate and surround the physical body. Energy is everywhere, and energy doesn't dissipate. It just maybe moves into a different form.
Yes, but I really want to explain something to our listeners. When we talk about everything is energy and everything has a vibration, even steel, even concrete. And someone's going to go, how is that possible? It's man-made. That's why. It was created. There was an energy put into manufacturing it, manifesting it. So it has a certain vibration. It's a very low density.
And the materials
But it-
came from Earth.
Yes. So it still has a vibration. Literally everything from wood to grass, the earth, your body,
Animals, flowers,
everything.
bugs, trees.
Every living and non-living entity, thing, has a vibration, a signature.
And what happens when your vibrations are not vibrating in a way that promotes good health? They need to be balanced.
Well, yes.
They need to be balanced.
Stasis in the body is very important because we trigger our markers. And there's so many factors into that, emotionally, physically, what we ingest, absorption, all of that, plays into it. So, yeah, it's very interesting stuff.
Yeah, what we put in our body and the emotions probably are the two biggest things.
Yes.
Because if you're going to hold back emotions, you can expect that they will conjure up an illness in your body.
Yeah.
You really can.
And we're also, let's say too, heavy metals, mercury,
Yeah.
things like that, EMF, radiation. They're also outliers in that narrative as well, because they're extenuating circumstances physically outside of our bodies that do contribute to that and trigger that as well. Like if you grew up, next to a paper mill with all that toxic,
Or you worked in a paper mill
well,
before
yes.
they knew what ingesting the air from
Right.
the mill
exactly
would create,
Ex-
most likely.
Exactly. So, but also too, very interesting. We can strengthen our aura. We can strengthen and protect ourselves energetically as well. And we'll get into that at another time. But continue.
Well, okay, there's another word that I've heard before, and I know there's lots of different languages, another word for prana. I've heard the word prana. What does prana mean? Is it a moving breath? Is it the breath of life? And I used to think that's what it was. Or is it a breathing exercise? Now, some people said it was a man-eating fish, but that's a piranha, not prana. So a prana is the Sanskrit word meaning moving or breathing forth. So it's alive and it's always moving. And the word is, there's a different word for it in every language, because every language talks about the life force of prana.
Energy. I'm sure a lot of our listeners know about this, but there are a lot of you that don't. So this is why we're kind of going over these sort of basic energies and what they mean.
Okay, what is a power spot? That's what somebody asked us. They didn't understand what a power spot was. What do you think a power spot is?
Well, I know, but why don't you let our listeners?
Why don't you tell me?
You can tell them.
A place with powerful aura strengthening earth energies, where energy lays intersect. And what are energy lays? They're lines of energy that you can only measure when you have a tool that measures energy.
Yes.
You don't look and say, oh, there's the energy lay.
Like
And they're
the
all over
Schumann-
the earth.
Yes, like the Schumann resonance that measures electromagnetic energy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So all lays, especially where they intersect, are a very strong power spot.
Well, that's where usually a vortex lies,
Yeah.
where energy
yeah.
lines transect each other.
Now, I thought this was very interesting. What's a psychic tie? A psychic tie. I had no idea, but I figured it must mean something that you're attached to or that's attached to you. And a psychic tie is an undue attachment or repulsion to any person, place, or thing. So even a repulsion. So if there's something that triggers repulsion, that's a psychic tie for you.
Well, you would call it that, but the clinical name for it would be cell memory.
Oh, that's what creates it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Anytime you're triggered about something that happened before the moment now is triggered from cell memory, because cell memory gets stored in all your cells. Even though your cells die, when they replicate, the memory stays with the new cell.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
That's quantum entanglement.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is it stored in an infinitesimal amount of time, maybe in the heart, till the new cells develop? Or does it just...
No, it's stored in the cell itself. So as the cell replicates, it's like
It
a
just
clone.
moves into it.
No,
Yeah.
it's exactly, your cells are cloning each other, Joe.
Okay.
So they carry the exact same sort of DNA structure as they're
All right. That's
splitting
a way
and
to look at it.
multiplying. So this is how the memory is carried in the cell structure itself.
Yeah.
As
I
we
thought that
discussed,
was-
kind of like herpes or Lyme, but Lyme is a little bit more diversified in its storage, so to speak, how it rests in the cell. So
And it depends.
Yes.
Because I have Lyme, and there
Yes.
are some things that come with Lyme disease. They hide. They only test, like on my husband's machine. He has a frequency balancing machine, and sometimes things come up, sometimes they
Yes.
don't. Depends on how well hidden
well,
they
that's
are.
exactly. That's why
Yeah.
it's very hard to detect sometimes,
Yes,
because
it is.
And people
Certain parts of
go to the doctors and they're not showing. The marker isn't showing for
Right.
Lyme, and they have all these afflictions or impacts from the disease, and
they're
don't
told it's all in their head.
exactly. Interesting. You had a client recently who had psychological traumas connected to Lyme, directly.
Yes,
Which I had no
yes.
idea that it could create psychosis and
I
other types
I
of
was
mental
very
afflictions.
surprised at that. And as quick as the psychosis showed, it left, which just shows you
How
that-
it works.
Yes, how it can move from your brain to elsewhere. Yeah, that was pretty amazing. And we're going to have
I'm
my
glad we
husband
mentioned that.
on the show and talk about when he ate that fruit.
Oh,
that
yes.
went, the parasite went to his
yes.
brain.
And he
Yeah,
had
that's
the-
going to be interesting. Okay, now a food sheath. What is a food sheath? It's your physical body, which is created and sustained by food, which becomes food for something else after death. So what we live in is our food sheath. I don't like to think about that. I'm going to die and I'm going to become food for something else.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Beetles,
being-
worms,
No, I'm going to be
maggots.
cremated. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay.
But that now makes me feel a
I
little
probably will too.
selfish.
I haven't given much thought to it, but I think I'm going to be cremated as
Yeah.
well.
But, I guess that's not a bad idea. You're feeding the bugs that are left.
Well, you've come full circle. Life sustains life.
True. But then there's the mental body. What is the mental body? It's your thought forms, your crystallized thoughts and emotions. And of course, it's the whole thing, the subconscious, the unconscious, the conscious, and the different parts of your brain. It's your mental body. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
That one's not hard.
How we process.
How about your blissful sheath? What's your blissful sheath? It consists of your casual body. It's the progenitor to your ego. What does that mean?
It provides.
It provides a feeling of who you are, your identity as a separate individual. Absolutely.
I think it varies from person to person, but basically.
Well, that's healthy.
Yeah.
To be healthy, you need to have a separate identity, obviously. Okay. Now, you hear a lot today about chakras, the chakras in the body. What does the word chakra mean? What do you think it means?
It's an energy field. Points in the body.
It means wheel.
Well,
And
the actual definition, yes, it's a wheel.
Of
but these
all
are-
of them, it's a wheel because it's all the chakras.
The sum is equal to the whole of its parts.
Because its hub links many conduits of subtle energies, and its spokes radiate subtle energies. So they interact with each other. It's just like the heart and the brain. They work together as a team, but they have totally different roles.
Well, it's a great metaphor to look at it as a wheel, because all spokes, so to speak, that reinforce
together.
the rim have to be, their integrity, so to speak, has to be, strong. And if one or two begin to weaken, it affects the entire wheel. And that's why we need to always, when we connect to the body and our chakras, to keep the chi flow, the energy flowing, to activate all of them so they optimize the energy, your energy field, your aura, your connection to the universe, your Merkaba. All of those energies need to flow in unison, in consort together.
Have anyone ever said to you, have you ever had a Kundalini? And I know you have.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that meant till a few years ago. And I don't know how many of you know what that means, but it's a spiritual awakening. And everybody's can be different. There is no set description of a Kundalini. Sometimes it can happen, like to you, it happened very quickly. To most people, it happens over time. Some people even practice looking toward that spiritual awakening by studying masters, and but it seems to be more, at least in the limelight of where I travel now, I'm hearing more about it. There's more of an awareness among people who are trying to raise their consciousness and become more spiritual.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the energy of it is very powerful. And for people that don't really have much awareness of this, if you see 1111, 1212, 333, 444, you've been activated. And the process has begun.
It may
that's
take years, it may take a month.
exactly. If you see little floaties in the corner of your eye as you turn your head really quickly, like little sperm that just look like little lights flashing in the corner of your eye, that means you've been awakened. Those are ascension symptoms, we call them. And those are the preliminary sort of in utero type of experiences that we feel. Those are the very early beginning stages of your awakening, which I will personalize, that happened to me. And I had no idea what was going on. I thought my eyes were going in the beginning, but then only to learn and understand what was truly happening to me.
And your eyes got better.
They did.
That's interesting. The interesting thing, I think, is that the description of the word is curled up energy in your spine.
Well, physically, it seems to apparently that all types of energies lie dormant there. Herpes, Lyme, these types of dormant issues hide in the spinal fluid, which is very interesting because that's what really is the light switch to turn on your pineal gland.
What's the
connection.
language?
Being able to move your spinal fluid up to the pineal gland.
really?
So it doesn't surprise me that the spine can also hide dormant triggers like Lyme disease or herpes or other types
It's also the center of your body.
Yeah, well, everything operates with without your spine, we're just,
Yeah.
amoeba.
wouldn't be-
We're just puddles of mud on the floor. We're just squirming around. That's very funny.
Do you know what an astral entity is? You probably do.
Yes, but tell our audience.
Okay. An astral entity, is it a person who died, an evil spirit, or an earthbound spirit, or a higher being who gives information through channeling? Or perhaps you think it's a baseball player for the Houston team. Doubt it.
But she'll be here all week, people. Well, next week.
And then that's my last week. An astral entity is often a soul who, for various reasons, did not go into the divine light after death and is therefore earthbound. And I have some experience moving souls from here to leave Earth to join the family that went before them.
It can be very difficult depending upon how they died and what's really happening, because
Right, why they're staying here.
there's also a crystalline grid, Joe, that is what keeps them here. Some religions call it purgatory, others call it in between the third and fourth dimension. There are a lot of explanations for it, but that's basically what that is. The way we see ghosts on the battlefield in Williamsburg, that all the battles in Pennsylvania, and how people have gone and seen, because they keep repeating the same behavior because they're stuck in like a loop.
They're stuck in it, or they
Yes.
like it. I had a client
Absolutely.
who did not want to leave after being in an automobile accident. Did not want to leave because he wouldn't have beer. He wouldn't have beer. He was an alcoholic, obviously. So, but he didn't realize he was dead. He left the scene of the accident. Actually, his soul did, but he felt he still had his body. The family took care of that, and he found himself in a bar. And in the
Did
bar,
he haunt the bar?
here's how I know. He went into the bar, and there was a guy sitting alone at the bar drinking, and he went into his body. And he was enjoying the beer the guy was drinking. He said, I'm not leaving. So that guy came to me because he said, sometimes I feel like a different person. I don't know what's happening to me. And during the process of his hypnosis sessions, that person started talking to me. And I went, wait, that's not my client talking. And I realized, and he told me the story, the spirit. And I said, you need to leave. Your family's been looking for you, waiting for you. And he said, really? I said, yes, I'm going to get them now. And I just brought them down psychologically. And I said, put your hands out and just listen to them. And he left. Gave me no problems at all. He just left. And I had several sessions after that with this man. This was only our second session. We did 4, I think. And he said, no, he's not with me anymore.
Wow.
I can tell, because I think I was influenced by his behaviors to drink, and I don't drink like that anymore. I'm appropriate.
Interesting.
I know it.
It's incredible when you really think of the reality of that.
Of how powerful the mind is.
And not just how powerful the mind is, that all of this type of energy exists.
Yes.
And we are a part of this incredible paradigm of energy, of, force, light, love. Like, it's just really quite remarkable.
It is quite remarkable. This is the last question I have for the day. What's clairsentience? Are you clairsentient?
Yes.
Yeah, I am too. Anybody know what clairsentient means? Clairsentience means, it's a French term, and it means clear feeling, that you can feel things. And there's people that say they don't see auras, but they feel them.
Mm-hmm.
They can feel them. They can feel a color. They can feel so many things. So there's lots of clairs. And probably we should talk about the different clairs. This is just clairsentience.
Yes. There's clairaudient. There are
Well,
many.
what does that mean? Let's talk about that.
Well, being
We
able
have
to
a little
hear.
time.
But I wanted to address that.
Okay.
In that narrative of clairsentient, every person is an individual, Joe, right? So how that energy is interpreted in that person is their expression. So the way they interpret clairsentient, their body might interpret it differently, and they see it differently. Like in the narrative you just said, some people feel the color, or where other people see the color. There's no right or wrong.
It's how you
is
perceive
basically
it.
Yes, and that's what you should connect to in anything that you do, really. That whether it's work or music, or make it your own. Even though there's a template, kind of a structure of learning and understanding, once you're sort of proficient, so to speak, or you've understood mastery, you make it your own. because again, we are all individual, and the way you process, Joe, might be completely different than the way I do. But it doesn't make it it's not right or wrong. It's
No,
just how you
no,
do.
it's
So
just-
the expression of that narrative is different in everybody. And that's what I want to bring awareness, because someone go, oh, well, I don't see it. I don't see it. But maybe that's not what you connect to. So
That's
just
right.
open yourself up to trusting your instincts, your heart.
And practice.
Yeah.
Practice,
and what
practice,
it's telling you.
practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we were supposed to have a guest on this week, but
Yes.
unfortunately she had like 3 different emergencies. She'll be coming on with this soon, but it won't be this week. So we'll see you next week.
Has it gone by already, Joe?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. It's
Okay.
time to say goodbye. Thank you for joining us.
We are so glad that you are listening and watching us, and we will see you next week. So
And feel free to email us with any topics that
Yeah.
might be of interest to you, because we're open. We're open. We have a lot of areas that we'd like to touch on, but our first job is to serve the people that are listening to us with information that will be helpful for them.
yes. So
See you next week.
thanks, guys. Have a great week.